This is Aaron Golub, host of the Blind Ambition podcast. We'll be bringing you world-class leaders, entrepreneurs, and athletes, people who have overcome obstacles and used their ambition to create enormous success in their lives. If you enjoy this podcast, if you get anything out of it, the only thing I'll ever ask is that you subscribe, rate, and review. Hope you enjoy.
Today I'm joined by Adam Mendler. Adam, thank you so much for being here today.
Aaron, thanks for having me, man. Excited to be on your podcast. I'm proud of you, proud of what you're doing, and really fired up to be a part of the show.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And you've had a really interesting career. You've started your own companies. You've worked in the world of finance. You've worked in the world of on a presidential campaign, as a sports agency. Can you talk about some of the highlights there and what you really enjoyed most throughout your career?
Yeah, I know that this conversation is only going to be 30 minutes long, so I want to be respectful of that. And there's a lot that we can talk about, a number of different directions we can go in. But what I can tell you is I love what I'm doing now. I love being an entrepreneur. I love speaking. I love writing. I love being able to contribute content through my podcast, 30-Minute Mentors. I love being able to spend my time making a positive impact in the lives of others. Something that I tell audiences that I speak to is when you're trying to figure out what you want to do with your life, try to check 3 different boxes. Box number 1 is try to find something that you're really good at. I don't know that it makes sense to pursue a career doing something that you're bad at. Yeah. Number 2 is try to find something that you're passionate about. Do something that you love. And number 3 is do something that will help make a difference in the lives of others. Try to make the world a better place in some way. And if you can check all 3 of those boxes, you'll know you found it. And it took me some time to find it. It took me some time to get to a place where I was really able to say that I was doing something that I was passionate about, doing something that I was good at, and really making a positive impact in the lives of others. But fortunately, with what I do today, I am able to check all 3 of those boxes, and it makes all the difference.
Yeah. What do you think has been the most challenging or the role that you've learned the most in? Would it be starting your own company? Would it be when you were working on a presidential campaign, which I can imagine the stress there? Would it be working in the world of finance? What really challenged you the most and really made you grow?
Yeah, great question, Aaron. And there are definitely challenges in every phase of your career. There are challenges that you encounter really on every step along the way. I can tell you that my first job out of college was a challenge because I had graduated from USC and I felt like I was on top of the world. I was really loving my experience in college. As most people in college, particularly people at USC, we all have great experiences there. And when you go from really being big man on campus, and Aaron, I'm nowhere near as big as you are. I don't want to say I'm a foot shorter than you, but I'm certainly not big enough to play Division I college football. Not big enough to play Division I college anything. But maybe track, but I'm not fast enough to run track. But going from the high of being a college student to candidly the low of starting your career at the bottom of the totem pole. I worked for what was then the largest hedge fund in the world. It was a company still around, D.E. Shaw. They're an incredible company. They do unbelievable things in the world of finance. And they hire incredibly talented people from all the best schools all across America. And when I got there, I didn't really understand what it was like to have an entry-level job. I don't think I appreciated what it meant to really start at the bottom. But that experience taught me that. And it's something that everyone needs to experience. It's something that no matter where you are, no matter where you're coming from, you need to taste the bottom. You need to pay your dues. And paying my dues has been really helpful to me all along the way. That was a challenge. And every step along the way has been a challenge. My first job out of business school, I can talk about challenges there, but certainly being an entrepreneur, building different businesses in different industries, getting to this point was a lot harder than it looks, a lot harder than it sounds. When I do these kinds of interviews, I think I'm the rare guest that doesn't hesitate to talk about how hard it is, that doesn't hesitate to really dive into the challenges and to dive into the difficulties, because I think it's really important to share with listeners and to share with viewers that whether you're an entrepreneur or an intrapreneur or going on that corporate ride, you need to realize that life isn't a linear path. Your career isn't a linear path. There's no linear path to success. And really understanding how to weather the highs and weather the lows and dealing with the bumps along the way, that's what makes all the difference.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you know, I completely agree with you. I think that too many people don't talk about the challenges, the hardships, and they focus on, you know, the spotlight, what went well. And I think that a lot of people, especially listeners to things like this, need to understand that it's not always easy. There are challenges. You have to start at the bottom, and that's such a crucial point. You know, going from there, you know, what made you decide to eventually leave the world of finance, go in a different path, and then eventually say, you know what, I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to start my own business. What was that spark that made you want to do something on your own?
Yeah, really good question, Aaron. So I was 28. I had experienced corporate America both as a full-time employee, working for two huge companies in the world of finance, and as an intern. I interned for two huge companies in the entertainment industry. And I felt like I had a good sense as to what life was like in corporate America. And I thought that if there was ever a right time for me to take that entrepreneurial leap, it was then and there. So I did it. My feeling was my energy was never going to be higher. My expenses were never going to be lower. And I really wanted to make a difference. I wanted to make a meaningful impact. I wanted to try to build a culture and build a company that could positively impact others and try to leave my mark. And I thought that the Veloz Group could be a vehicle through which I would be able to do that.
That's awesome. And what kind of, you know, would you say today is your favorite part about what you're doing? Because I know that your group is involved in a few different industries. And what area do you really love to focus on the most, or is it just the entire process you really enjoy?
Yeah, great question, Aaron. And I love doing this. I love talking to you, even when we're off the air. I love the ability to help other people. So whether that is helping customers through selling different products through our e-commerce businesses, whether that's helping audiences become better leaders by giving talks to companies, giving talks to universities, giving talks to nonprofit organizations, whether that's through my podcast, 30-Minute Mentors, where I have the opportunity to help listeners become more successful personally and more successful professionally through my conversations with the most successful people in America on how they got to the top and really bringing out their best insights. So all of these things are things that I love doing. I love the variety. I love that I have the opportunity to work on all these different things. It definitely leads to early mornings, long days, late nights. But kind of like we talked about earlier, if you're doing something that you feel really strongly about, it makes all the difference. I've had jobs, and I know that this will resonate with viewers and with listeners, because I can tell you that this has been the case with just about everyone. But I've had jobs where by 3 o'clock, I was completely drained. And it could be a 9 to 5. And at 3 or 2 or 4, you're just done. And it's not because you're working so hard or because you're working so long. It's because you're not emotionally invested in the work that you're doing. And now, Aaron, we're recording this podcast. It's 4:22 right now in Los Angeles, and I'm in the middle of my day. After this, I've got an hour and a half of phone calls, and then I'm teaching a class tonight, which is going to be a 3-hour class. And then after my class ends, I'm going probably to eat some food and brush my teeth and go to bed and do the same thing all over again tomorrow. So that's life as an entrepreneur, and we embrace it. Crazy people with this crazy entrepreneur gene out there. We embrace it. We love it, and we do it day in and day out, and are just it's kind of like a football player. You embrace it, and you just sort of you look forward to the next day.
Absolutely. What would you say? Do you have a specific kind of daily routine, whether it be morning or business routine, that allows you to continue creating the success and the momentum that you've had? I know that, in my personal opinion, I have a strict morning routine. I have daily non-negotiables, and from what I've found, the people who perform at the highest level, the people who are the most successful in business and entrepreneurs, have some sort of routine, and everyone's is different, but everyone pretty much has something.
Yeah. I think the most important part of my daily routine, well, at least one of the most important parts of my daily routine, starts the night before, and that's getting a good night's sleep.
Yeah.
When I go to bed way past my bedtime, I'm shot the next day. And that applies during the week, that applies on a weekend. I just know if I'm out late on a weekend, that next day I'm shot. So I hate this. It isn't going to be fun. Any girls out there who are interested in dating, I know this is not going to make me sound like a very fun guy to date, but I hate going out late at night. I like going to bed early. I am an early bird, and that's the way that I start my day is by hitting the sack pretty early. And I wake up early. And when I wake up, I usually just jump right into the workday. I'll check some emails. I'll read the news. I'll catch up on what's going on in the world and try to put out whatever fires are burning, whether they're real fires or perceived fires. I try to get a head start on the workday. And then I work out. I love being active. I love getting a workout in every day. And on the days that I don't work out, even if it's a scheduled off day, because it's not good for you to work out 7 days a week. You need to give your body some rest. But on the days that I don't work out, I don't have that same energy. I don't have that same level of fuel. So working out is such a big component to the daily routine for me. Also really important to eat healthy. That's critical to your success, being able to fuel your body with the pieces. And look, at the end of the day, Aaron, you are what you eat and you are how you feel. And you want to have the requisite energy to succeed and to thrive. So I'm really careful about what I eat. And beyond that, I can tell you that I probably have too much to do every day. So I try really hard to prioritize. I try to work on the things that are pressing, and I try to work on things that are strategic. But it's not easy to get everything done, but I think it's important to try your best to not punish yourself for not being able to win every day. I can tell you that every day I make plenty of mistakes. Every day I go to bed having failed at something, and that's just part of the process. And all you can do is learn from your mistakes, learn from your failures, and get back at it the next day.
Absolutely. What role has mentors played in your success? And is there anyone in specific that has really stood out as a mentor to you throughout your journey in business, your journey as an entrepreneur, or is it more for you kind of learning as you go?
Aaron, I'm a very big believer in the power of mentorship. The power of mentorship is something that I've written about, something that I speak about. Certainly my podcast, 30-Minute Mentors, is predicated on my philosophy that we can all benefit from mentorship. And there are two kinds of mentors. There is a traditional mentor. There's a mentor who you go out to lunch with once a month, or you go out to coffee with, or you jump on a phone call with, or maybe nowadays you're doing Zoom or Skype calls with. A great mentor to me, when I was a kid, I had an unbelievable mentor, someone I'm still very close with. And he really turned me on to the importance of mentorship, because my first internship was interning for him. And I learned so much from that experience. I've learned so much from my relationship with him. It's been an invaluable relationship to me professionally, and even more valuable personally. So I can tell you that I've benefited from having a traditional mentor, but I've also benefited from having what I call mini mentors. And that's really what I try to give to listeners through 30-Minute Mentors. And what is a mini mentor? A mini mentor, in contrast to a traditional mentor, is someone who you might talk to once, or you might talk to once a year, or once every few years, or once every 6 months. But that one interaction, that one conversation can be incredibly influential to your success, can be incredibly influential to your personal success or to your professional success. And there are so many examples in my life that I can think of. And what I try to do is I try to give listeners access to the best network of mentors possible in 30-minute increments through 30-minute mentors. So whether a listener wants to hear from a Fortune 500 CEO, or a founder of a multi-billion-dollar company, or a 3 or 4-star admiral or general, Hall of Fame athlete, my goal is to make accessible the most successful people and allow them to share their wisdom and insights with listeners. Because I can tell you that the ability to spend 30 minutes with incredibly successful people will help you, will help me, will help each and every one of us.
Yeah, that's awesome. What are your goals for the future? Where do you see yourself going with everything you're doing with your business, with your entrepreneurial life, and just with your life in general? What are your plans? What are your goals, your aspirations?
Well, hopefully I can get invited back onto this show. That's a big goal for me. I hope I can make it here. Have you ever had any guests on twice?
Not yet, because we just started a few months ago, but you could be the first down the line.
That would be an honor, Aaron. So
thank you.
As far as future goals, my goals today are really to continue to push on what I'm doing and to try to continue to grow each of the ventures that I'm actively working on. So our office furniture business, we have a number of different things that we're working on to try to help scale that business and take it to the next level. We're the leading sellers in the country of refurbished brand name office chairs. So we sell the Herman Miller Aeron chair, which is the #1 most successful, most popular office chair ever made. We sell that chair refurbished at about 50% off. And we sell other chairs like that. And we're working on other kinds of things to make that business kind of take it to that next level. As far as my writing and speaking goes, just to continue to touch more people, get in front of as many audiences as I can, and make as much of a difference as I can in as many people's lives as possible, and hopefully continue to grow 30-Minute Mentors.
Yeah. What would you say, say you run into someone in a coffee shop and they ask for 2 minutes, 3 minutes of your time. What's a piece of advice that you would give to someone who is maybe younger and starting off on the entrepreneurial journey, or has a goal that they want to achieve, but they're not exactly sure how to go about it? What 1 or 2 pieces of advice would you give that person?
Yeah, really good question, Aaron. And I'll give one piece of advice, and we can go deeper. We can jump into more things, but if you just want one, something that I try to tell audiences, and certainly audiences of people who are early on in their journeys, is I think it's really important to recognize that at the end of the day, we're all bad at most things in life. I can tell you, I personally am bad at most things in life. If you're intellectually honest, you probably admit that you're bad at most things in life too.
Yeah.
Now, there are a few things that we're good at, but there's that one thing in each of us, in every single one of us, that makes us special. There's that one thing that makes us different, that makes us unique. It's our superpower. And the more quickly you can figure out what it is about you that makes you different, what it is about you that makes you unique, what it is about you that makes you special, the more successful you'll be in business, the more successful you'll be in life, the more successful you'll be as a leader. So I implore anyone listening to this podcast, I would implore anyone who I would meet at a coffee shop, who I have 2 minutes or 3 minutes with, to take the time to get on that journey and figure out, what is it about you that makes you special? What is your superpower? How are you different? How are you unique? How are you differentiated from each and every person out there? And it's not an easy question to answer. It may be an easy question to understand, but it's not an easy question to answer. And it requires taking the time to do a lot of deep thought, reflection, introspection. You have to talk to others, talk to those closest to you, your friends, your family, your neighbors. Talk to your teachers, talk to your mentors, talk to your mentees. Talk to anyone you can think of who has a perspective on you, who can help shed light into who you are. And that will really help you discover your superpower. Because at the end of the day, if you want to be successful in anything, but you asked about being successful as an entrepreneur, it's ultimately about figuring out what you're great at and channeling your time and energy and focus onto that.
Yeah, that's so important. I love that answer. And I think that, one of the things that I personally think goes really hand in hand with that, the topic of the mentors, like we were talking about before. And I think it's really important for people to understand what they don't know and understand what they're not good at. Because when you understand what you don't know, you can reach out, you can ask people for help, and you can find that mentor. And so I think that's a really important skill that, I think you sort of touched on there that I just wanted to bring to light.
Absolutely, Aaron.
Yeah. Well, Adam, where can everyone find you? First off, thank you for coming on this show. Where can people find you? Where can people, find more information on you, your podcast, everything that you have going on?
I try to make it as easy as possible. It's just my name, Adam Mendler. So you can find me at adammendler.com. You can find me on social media at Adam Mendler. So that's at Adam Mendler on Instagram, at Adam Mendler on Twitter. You could find my podcast, 30-Minute Mentors, on any podcasting app. So whatever podcasting app you're listening to this podcast on, assuming you're listening and not watching, whether it's iTunes or Spotify or Google Play or Stitcher or any other great podcasting app. You can also find it at 30minutementors.com. That's all spelled out, 30-Minute Mentors. And hopefully you enjoy, listen, subscribe. And Aaron, thanks again for having me. This was awesome.
Yeah, no, thank you for coming on. And just kind of a side note for anyone there, Adam's podcast is really, it's fantastic. There's a lot of very successful people on there, and I listen to it every week, so I highly recommend it.
Thanks, man. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. If you enjoyed it at all, if you got one thing out of it, we'd really appreciate it if you would subscribe, rate, and review. Thank you.